There we go. All right, I think we're live on YouTube as well, so we'll get things started. Hello, everyone. Happy April. Hope things are going well. And yeah, another edition of our monthly call, and hope you can see the slides I'm sharing. Let me start advancing. Yeah, just a quick reminder on community code of conduct, which we show before all of our events. So you can see the full text there in our GitHub repo. If you have any questions, agenda items. I mean, the community news. We have several things that we want to update folks on. So I'll go over those, and then we have several team members from Ternary joining us today. So thanks for joining, and you folks will talk about how you're working around the 50K row limit that we have in Cube for queries. And yeah, I think this is one of the more popular questions that pop up on our Slack channel, and Ternary team has a creative way of sort of dealing with this. So looking forward to seeing that. And Ryan's going to be here later on to give us a quick product update, and we'll be back. I mean, I'll talk about this too. We'll have a sort of a Q2 product roadmap presentation scheduled for next month, but I'll get to that in a minute. Cool. And then if you have any questions, I mean, feel free to type them either on YouTube Live or the chat window on Zoom. I'll try to get to them as soon as we can. All right, so community news. Just 2 weeks ago, we had our advanced pre-aggregations workshop. We had a good number of attendees, like 75, a little less than half the people who registered attended. And surprisingly, like more than 70% of the people that attended were like a first-time workshop attendees. Like they haven't attended any of our previous workshop, which was interesting. And when I checked the stats, like yesterday, there were already like over 170 people that have viewed the recording. So hopefully it was a helpful content. And in case you missed the workshop, Adnan, who led most of the discussion during the workshop, wrote a recap blog post that you can read there, with a quick summary of what the topics that were discussed. And the blog post also has links to slides and recordings that you'll see that are on the events page. So if you missed it, you can download the slides and to watch the recording at your leisure. One low light that I wanted to point out, and something that I want to figure out, a very disappointing number of people responded to the post-event survey. I mean, barely more than 10% of the attendees responded to the survey. I try to shoot for like 25, 30%. So something that we'll need to do better. So I'll go over some of the survey data, but it's probably not statistically that meaningful, but definitely want to see if there's a way we can sort of encourage more people to provide feedback. So in terms of like overall satisfaction, I mean, like I said, the responses there are only 9 people who responded, but I mean, I think good numbers. I mean, unfortunately, we had one person who gave us a 3, but I think this is in general an improvement from our previous workshop on data modeling. And this has, more detail. I mean, this is sort of survey people on different aspects of the workshop. And one of the things that we wanted to really focus on was the demos, because that was one area that we didn't do as well on our data modeling workshop back in January. So I think we even got like a 2 on one of the responses for that workshop. So that was an area of focus, and it was good to see an improvement for the demos portion. So we'll keep at it. And I thought Adnan did a fantastic job. So I think the work he put into it definitely showed up in the survey. And in terms of like future topics, I mean, data modeling actually, like we've been talking about this like internally as well. I mean, data modeling in general is a interesting discussion topic. So we'll probably sort of come back and do a sort of a follow-up data modeling session like we did with pre-aggregations, and especially as we add new features to our product. SQL API is a popular one, and the other one that was interesting was sort of getting started type of tutorial for like a non-developers. So we'll talk about that in a bit in terms of future workshops. So I mean, if you have other suggestions or feedback on what you'd like to see cover on future workshop, please let us know. But I mean, those of you who responded, appreciate your feedback on this. Definitely helps us plan for our future events. And yeah, what we did this time around, like instead of sending out typical like a merchandise and swag, we wanted to make donations to charitable organizations. So here are the three organizations basically will be making donations to Save the Children, UNICEF, and Doctors Without Borders. So I mean, we were hoping to donate more, but I mean, total of like $180 we'll be donating to these organizations. And thanks for participating in the survey. But hopefully, we'll get more people to participate in the post-event survey next time around. So in terms of our next workshop, we're just announcing it today. So we just finalized the logistics. So the event will be, I guess, 5 weeks from today on May 18th. And we're calling it the Building Data Applications with Cube. So, basically, integrating Cube with various applications on the front end and back end. And there'll obviously be sort of hands-on demos. The event page is up, thanks to Adnan. This went live, I think, shortly before this call. So feel free to visit this page, and you'll see announcements on Slack and social in various places. So feel free to start registering. And then, I think I mentioned this, maybe it was last month. We definitely want to increase the frequency of these workshops. So we probably want to start announcing like not just one at a time, but 2, 3 at a time, so that sort of what's coming in terms of our roadmap for workshops. So stay tuned for that, and we'll let you know. So that's it for our workshops. Let's see. So I think Ryan's going to get to this in a bit, but wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on our product side. So the first one is a little bit more sort of internal, in the US, we call them inside baseball. But we decided to shift our fiscal year, and a lot of companies do this to start in February instead of our fiscal year coincided with our calendar year starting in January. But a lot of companies have been doing this, they basically start your Q1 in February. So Q1 ships from January to March to February to April. So and you can see the effects of that. Q2 basically starts in May. And so what we decided to do, we typically showed our quarterly roadmap in community calls, and we wanted to sort of, we basically want to synchronize our roadmap planning with our fiscal quarter. So the Q2 roadmap, typically we would present it today, but we'll present it next month. So the Q1 basically extends until the end of this month. So we bought ourselves another month basically to make the shift, but just wanted to let you know and be transparent about it. So that's one that sort of impacted our quarterly roadmap planning. The other one, this probably had more impact, especially with our engineers. A lot of you may know, we have a lot of engineers in Russia, and also we have one engineer in Ukraine. Obviously, they've been impacted by the recent events, what's going on in Ukraine. And a lot of our engineers, even in Russia, they wanted to sort of relocate to different countries. You've probably seen, even today, I saw a news report about tech workers, moving to other countries outside of Russia. So people who wanted to move out, I think we wanted to be supportive of that, and they moved to different countries and in various parts of Europe, and they're safe. But obviously, this impacted their lives to a great deal. So it took them a while to sort of settle in and find new places to go. So this impacted our sort of work planning internally. So you probably may have seen some slight delays in our deliverables, but appreciate your. I'm sure you'll all understand what people are going through. So appreciate your patience on this. But I think, like I said, all the people that have moved out are safe, and they're getting to sort of swing of things in their lives. So hopefully things will get back to normal soon. So just wanted to share that with everybody. That's what's happening. And like I said, we'll, in 4 weeks from now, like Ryan will come back and we'll talk about the Q2 roadmap, and we'll share what we're planning on doing in Q2, and also review how we did with our Q1 roadmap. So I think that's it for me there. Katie, I guess you'll talk about how you're working around the 50K row limit. So I'll stop sharing and I can let you go.
Cool. All right. Is that showing? Let me.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the introduction. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Katie and I'm a software engineer here at Ternary. Just as a small note on what Ternary is, first of all, we're a GCP-focused cloud cost management platform, and we use Cube pretty much everywhere in our app to get billing and usage data from GCP and Stackdriver, which we then display to users just so they can get visibility into this data. And so you can imagine that we do run into this 50K row limit often, especially with customers that have big data sets. And on most pages, we'll leave out the missing data that is not captured in the 50K row, in the 50,000 rows. And if we are kind of displaying any totals like total cost, waste, or usage on the page, the totals will just be incorrect, which is definitely problematic because we need to display accurate data. On one of our features, the reporting engine, where we kind of allow users to dynamically generate queries by adding their own dimensions and filters and measures, we tell the users to filter their data further to reduce the response size, and we don't display any data at all. Apart from these two issues, displaying this many data points in the UI can already be very taxing, and not to mention it's difficult for users to even interpret that kind of data, especially if you're using like a line chart or a bar chart, which I'll describe in the next slide. So if you look on the left, if I was a customer and I wanted to see the cost of all of my projects over the last 30 days, and I only had 3 projects, 3 times 30 is 90, which is perfectly fine. It's within the limit, and it's also a very legible chart. But if I'm a larger customer, you can see on the right, and I have 3,000 projects, multiplied by 30 days, that's already 90,000 rows of data. That's obviously exceeding the limits, but it also doesn't even factor in whether or not I want to break down by multiple dimensions other than project ID. So if I wanted to also see, the cost by region and also by category, as well as project ID, it's going to be a lot easier for me to reach that 50,000 row limit, which is why it was so important for us to solve this issue. So to break it down, what we're doing at Ternary is breaking down the request into 3 separate queries. So in the first query, we just want to see, what was the total cost every single day for the last 30 days. At this point, we don't want to see all of this cost broken down by project, because that's going to max out the 50K limit. In the second query, we're going to ask for the top spenders. So here, let's just say N is 3. I want to see the top 3 projects that had the most spend across the last 30 days. I don't need to see the day-by-day breakdown. I just need to see the top spenders. And we'll just say that, projects A, B, and C are the top spenders. And now that we know that, we can generate filters and move on to query 3, where we can ask for the day-by-day breakdown of the spend of these top 3 projects across the last 30 days. And you can see here that this is where we get 90 points of data, which is well within our limit. But of course, even though we have the top 3 projects, that doesn't mean that we've necessarily accounted for all of the spend. So there's definitely going to be almost definitely going to be a discrepancy between query 1 and query 3. So if I looked at February 1st on query 3 and I saw that my projects A, B, and C added up to $450 worth of costs, and I saw that the total cost for February 1st was $500 in query 1, we're missing that $50 and it's not being accounted for in our third query. Of course, like I said before, that this is really important for us to preserve these totals. So in the final output, we want to not only display the 90 data points from query 3, but we also want to add an additional 30 data points, one for every day, in a dimension called other, where we basically say, these are your top 3 projects, and everything else is kind of accounting for this smaller amount. And in the end, you do lose some specificity, but we at least have the correct totals and we're highlighting the most important projects. I will say that we know that this approach isn't going to solve every single problem with the 50K row limit, but in the case where we know what our users most likely want to see, which is that for us, our users most likely want to see the most expensive projects. And we want to display the data in a way that's very clear and legible. This approach does work very well for us. And that's about the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Cool. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, I want to give people a chance to ask any questions or follow-up comments. But...
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, and thanks again, Katie, for sharing that. That's a really clever way of showing the results that are most interesting to users. I guess we get this question a lot in the community about, can we do anything about this 50K result set limit in the Cube queries? And we always push back on that a bit and try to understand the use case a bit, because as a human looking at data, I generally don't love having to peruse through 50K plus results. So I really appreciate an app or interface that's gonna condense that data or show me only the most significant data points to me that I really care about. So I really really like how y'all have made this kind of work best for the user in this case.
Yeah,
and I hope everyone else kind of adopts the same philosophy as well, to kind of make it easy on the eyes for humans looking at data.
Yeah. Also, credit to this approach totally goes to Bruce. He came up with all of it, and I had endless support from him and Chuck in writing this feature. So
cool. And I think, Katie, we're talking about potentially writing this as a blog post. I think there'll be another a great resource if you're still up for that. And at the very least, we can, whenever the question gets asked on Slack, we can point to a written resource that people can look at to use as a reference. So.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention that, but yes, yeah. The blog post is coming, so be on the lookout for that.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Any questions from the audience, or guess not? I'm scanning through Livestream to see if there are any questions, but it looks like there aren't any. So thanks again, Katie, and the rest of the Ternary team. You guys are in full force today. Appreciate it, and definitely looking forward to the blog post as well. So, cool. All right, I think Ryan, I guess you're up next with quick product updates since we skipped it last month.
Yes. Do you mind sharing your screen?
Yeah,
because I need to find the deck. And I just have one slide, I think.
Yeah, give me a second. Too many buttons on my screen. think that's it. So there we go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty quick update today. I mean, as Ray mentioned earlier in this call, like it's been a little bit of a hectic quarter for us because of events around the world. But we were able to recently deliver this Athena batching and export feature. So we've already, enabled this for several other popular warehouses like BigQuery and Snowflake. But we were getting questions about this for Athena quite often, and so we added this recently. So now, if you are building pre-aggregations from Athena and you have over 100K result sets, which most people do, it will now perform pretty well under those conditions. And then we are still working a lot on the heavily anticipated SQL API integrations so that we can add more BI tools that can read from the SQL API. Basically, we are completely refactoring how we originally implemented this when we prototyped it late last year to make it more scalable and performant across different tools that would be reading from it. And so I'm really excited about this work. I'm hoping that in the next month or so, we'll have some more integrations to show shortly. And then the roll-up joins was also something that I know we've gotten a lot of asks for, and having that enabled across different DB types, that is also expected to land in this month. And I'm pretty confident about it this time. So hopefully we'll have the ability to do that soon as well.
Yeah, roll-up joins is, something I've been looking at too, and I've been bugging engineering team, and I just, on the chat, I put the PR for roll-up joins that's work in progress, so you can take a look at what's the work that's happening. So, yeah, sorry, Ryan, I think I cut you off.
That's it. But, yeah, pretty short update today.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and in terms of SQL API, as soon as that feature lands, that's sort of one of the next workshop topic items that we're looking at. So as soon as that feature is available, you'll probably see that as one of the feature topics in the next few months. So stay tuned for that as well. Cool. Thanks, Ryan. I guess pretty short and sweet call today. Just a couple of reminders. In I guess 4 weeks when we have the next call, we'll definitely come back and review the work in progress items so far on Q1 roadmap items, and then I'm sure we'll have several items that we're planning for Q2 for the open source roadmap. And yeah, I think we typically even shared roadmap items on the cloud as well for a lot of people that are interested, and we just want to be transparent about the work we're doing as well. So yeah, that's it. And thanks Ternary team for joining us in force, and we'll see all of you again soon. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.